We hear about fossil fuels pretty often, from how bad they are to the environment to pictures of dinosaur skeletons in the media. However, those aren't really fossil fuels. Many of the fossil fuels that we refer to come from prehistoric plants and microorganisms that were buried deep underground. So in this video, we will go over what fossil fuels are, how they are formed, and their impact on the environment. So what are they? Fossil fuels are rich in energy because they are mostly made of carbon and hydrogen, which can be easily burned to generate heat or electricity. Upon contact with oxygen, the energy stored in the bonds between carbon and hydrogen gets broken down and released as heat. In the case of electricity, we can heat up water using fossil fuels, which converts the water into steam, turning steam turbines to make electricity. These carbon sources are made from organic material that died millions of years ago, which is why we call them fossil fuels. The fossil part just refers to the prehistoric material that was made into the fuel source, not actual dinosaur fossils. So technically, they are renewable, since fossil fuels are just dead organisms, but because these take millions of years to form into an energy source, we consider fossil fuels to be non-renewable. The main types of fossil fuels are coal, oil, and natural gas, and they are formed through millions of years of pressure and temperature underground. After organisms die, they get buried by layers of rock and dirt, which adds more weight to squish them down over millions of years, increasing their pressure. And as they get squished towards the core of the Earth, the temperature also increases, causing them to turn into fossil fuels as oxygen gets pushed out of their decaying layers. Coal is formed from decaying plants, while oil and gas, usually methane, is formed from microorganisms in the ocean. Depending on the different pressures and temperatures experienced by the buried organisms, they form into different qualities of fossil fuels. So now, why is burning fossil fuels bad? As mentioned earlier, fossil fuels are rich in carbon and hydrogen, and they are burned in the presence of oxygen to provide energy. However, as we break the bonds between carbon and hydrogen, the carbon then combines with the oxygen, forming carbon dioxide. This is a gas that isn't harmful in small amounts, since plants need it to stay alive, but as we pump billions of tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere from burning fossil fuel, things get a lot worse. Our atmosphere is made of mostly nitrogen and oxygen gas, which let infrared light, or heat, freely pass through them. However, carbon dioxide absorbs the infrared light instead and emits some of the heat back onto Earth, which is why we refer to carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas. Moreover, when we extract fossil fuels from deep underground, we end up destroying habitats, contaminating clean drinking water, and increasing chances of leaks into the environment. And there we have it. Fossil fuels are just dead organisms from millions of years ago that are rich in carbon and hydrogen, which can be burned to release tons of energy. They are formed through the immense pressure and temperature underground, which are ready for us to dig back up to power around 80% of our energy uses. However, as we burn fossil fuels, we end up releasing carbon dioxide and contaminants in the process of using and extracting them. This is also a very political issue, filled with misinformation and imbalance of power and privilege, which is why it is always important to do our own research on topics like those. I hope that y'all have learned something interesting today. Thank you for your time, and stay hydrated.